All right, what's up? Good morning, PT on Ice. Hope everyone's off to a very solid Tuesday. I'm jumping in here. I know that Justin Dunaway and Morgan are back, heading back right now from Haiti. Everyone's got a busy morning, so I'm hopping in here for Tuesday morning. I'm recently back. I got in late last night from Santa Barbara. I had a fantastic time out there, so huge thanks to Hayashida. They've been a great hosting facility for us. I've had a wonderful time with their group. Really nice full house, and great to get out in Santa Barbara too. Did a bit of surfing yesterday, which I'm horrific at, but sure was awesome to be out in the water and to be at Rincon Point. That was a cool experience. So thanks to everybody who was there for the weekend. In a couple days, Tuesday, I'll be heading to Traverse City first thing Friday morning. So for those of you going to Traverse City to Superior Physical Therapy, I will see you there. And then Milwaukee is the following weekend. So lumbar spine, I believe, is in both locations. So we'll see a bunch of you. Hey, what's up, Kelsey? Good morning. See a bunch of you in Traverse City. I think we have one spot left for that class, and then Milwaukee, we can fit a ton of people in that room. So we'll have no problem on capacity for Milwaukee at Marquette University. So looking forward to seeing some of you in the next couple of weekends. So I had a really cool week. You know, I was over prior of being in Santa Barbara. The week before that, I spent in sort of a combination of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and over at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. But when I was in Sioux Falls, I was mentoring a fellow in training for Evidence in Motion, and really had an awesome week. Very high level clinician, really lended it to some great discussions and always some challenging to me of figuring out, what is salient and what could be improved when someone's practicing at a very high level. And then reviewing some of those same themes that came through the mentorship during the course this weekend. Again, a really, really great high firing group, and, trying to figure out, what are some of the consistent errors and clinical patterns that we're still seeing across most people, even those that are functioning at a very high level. And I think that one of the biggest ones that I want you to think about this morning and going into clinic today is the idea of doing less better. And that really became almost a central theme of the course this weekend in Santa Barbara. And it's something more and more I am finding to be the culprit of confusion and clinical grayness, and just that extra few visits that don't need to be there, or that patient that could have responded that didn't. I think oftentimes comes down to we're doing too much, and we're doing it a little bit sloppy as opposed to doing less better. So let me see if I can break that down across maybe a few of the key time points during your exam and treatment where it's particularly relevant, right? So let's think about the subjective exam, right? We tend to grab too many aggravating factors, but we don't measure them in depth enough to make them useful. So again, it's too much information without enough clarity. So what I would really encourage us to do is that when we're grabbing ag factors for a given location. So let's say we've got someone who's got some neck stuff on board, some shoulder stuff on board, maybe a couple different pain areas, and you're trying to differentially diagnose, are these connected? Are these coming from the same symptom generator, or are these individual problems, right? As we're diving into ag factors for each of them, I think that we really should focus on just getting a couple, as opposed to getting every single activity or motion that bothers that area, but not getting much other information surrounding it. I think it's far more valuable if we get two ag factors, right? But then we number one, we make sure they're relevant to the patient, right? Because that's going to draw them into the decision making. It's going to draw them into the process. So, getting every motion of the shoulder as an ag factor is not relevant to the patient, but finding out that reaching into their back seat, finding out they can't drive, things that are meaningful to the patient, the less we grab, the more meaningful we can make them. And more importantly, making them fully measurable, right? So when we're getting these ag factors from patients of, Jeff, I have a hard time serving my tennis racket. I have a hard time driving. I have a hard time getting into the back seat, right? We need to chase those ag factors all the way to the end, right? How many times can you serve that tennis racket? How much pain do you have after you've done it X amount of times? What do we have to do to calm things down? And fully clarify not only how functionally limiting that ag factor is for them due to the current condition, but also how irritable the condition is surrounding that. There's no way we can do that on 7 or 8 egg factors for every pain location. So when we're gathering that body chart and we're figuring out where is this person having a hard time, and now what is it that bothers that area, when we go after that, what is it that bothers it? Let's leave it to 1 or 2 things that we chase down in really good detail, right? Things that are meaningful for the patient that are very measurable. If we go for 6 things, we're not going to be able to accomplish that. So I think in this objective exam, having a million different egg factors that are not fully delved into creates a lot of confusion and begins to lose relevance for the patient. Okay, in the physical exam, right, first of all, when we design it, so when we're going into our physical exam and we're thinking about what we're going to include, I think we generally include way too much. We start doing things in our physical exam that don't really have differential diagnostic value, right? We want to challenge ourselves that if we're going to do something in the physical exam, we should be saying to ourselves, if this comes out like this, then this, right? The outcome of this physical test, of this exam measure, is going to give me differential diagnostic information between these competing hypotheses, as opposed to, I'm just doing it because I always do it. Right? And the problem is multifactorial here, but the biggest one is when you start just kind of doing things out of habit, you do gain data. It's just not useful data, but it does cloud your clinical picture, right? It is data. It is more information that we have to sift through. And oftentimes, because it really wasn't the most poignant measure to do, it gives you data that's confusing, because it really didn't make sense to do it. So now you maybe kind of provoke symptoms, which is boy, that's not what I expected, but now your mind is being preoccupied by this, all because you chose to measure something that wasn't really necessary. Now, the other big downside of doing so many things in the physical exam, of not doing less better, is that we don't do them completely. So I think about watching people do a lot of neural tension tests or when we're trying to collect too many things and we rush through them and we don't fully sensitize, right? So we talk in our classes about doing a straight leg raise, right? Doing a really good job of sensitizing down below, getting a good measurement, leg back down, going and putting some neural tension on proximally, neurodynamic tension on proximally, redoing straight leg raise, looking at the difference, and really spending time to tease out, is this a positive neurodynamic test? Is this worth putting on the board? Do we have something here, right? But the problem again is that if we're trying to do so many things during the exam, we're not going to be able to do them that well. Additionally, we aren't going to do them methodically enough, right, to be able to really catch small changes, right? When we're blowing through these exam measures because we're doing so many of them, we aren't taking the time to do them exactly the same way every time, because that takes time to set things up exactly the same way every time. If we only do a handful of things, and all of them are really meaningful, and we're really looking forward to the results because it's going to drive differential diagnostic decision making, we can take that time to do them perfectly. To say, no, Susan, you got to scoot all the way over. You were all the way over here before, right? Your other hand was like this. I need the exact same setup. We aren't going to be able to do that if we're trying to measure 1,000 things. So again, during the physical exam, only doing things that have a very specific differential diagnostic question behind them, doing them fully, right? Exploring them completely so you get all the possible information out of every given test that you select, and taking that extra time to do them methodically so that when you do reassess, if the changes are small, they are small but noticeable. For all of those reasons, doing less things, but doing them better in the physical exam is really important. Moving into exercise, we all know that doing too many exercises is a great way, right, to shoot compliance in the foot. You give someone a laundry list or 5 pages of handouts and nobody's reasonably going to do that. But the reason why I think is not as much because they don't have time for it. It's because they don't value it. And they don't value it because there's no way to make 17 different stimuli clear to the patient as far as the reason they're doing it. I think that's the real crux there, because everybody always says, well, patients won't spend 25 minutes. And historically, I have not found that to be the case. I do think patients won't spend 25 minutes on something they don't believe is very important. That I definitely believe, right? And the problem is that when we give people a ton of things to do, we don't take the time to say, do you understand exactly why you're doing this, right? Do you understand sort of what we have decided around the current state of your patellar ligament, patella tendon, and why we are giving it this stimulus at this frequency in this position? Like, do you fully understand the meaning behind why you're going home with this? Do you realize how it correlates to what we did here clinically? Can you appreciate? Do you have any questions about that? So again, showing the patient, do you understand why we're activating the hips and how it relates to cleaning up that squat pattern? Can you see how what I did manually here in the clinic is being replicated by this band or by this cue or by this wall at home? Do you understand? Do you have any follow-up questions on why those things are connected? And when we go that deep, and people are like, no, I see exactly why I'm doing it. That totally makes sense. Like the education you gave me and what we did here, I see how you're mirroring that at home, and I understand why I need the dose I need. Like to make those cell changes the way you were talking about, I see why I have to do this, right? When you give people less, but they do it better, I think the compliance is going to be significantly improved. And I think then your outcomes are going to be significantly improved. Not only will they do it, but you're going to be able to give them a load, right, a dose, because they're only doing a handful of things. You're going to be able to give them a dose that is meaningful, a prescriptive dose that makes change. Again, kind of going back, it's two-part argument of will they do it, and then will they do enough of it to be able to make the kind of change to hit the treatment intent that you were planning for. Those things are both going to have a lot better shot at being successful if you give them less things to do, but make sure that what they do better. So I really think, and I'll challenge all of you this week, and I'll challenge myself. I've got some patients on the book here tomorrow and Thursday to do less better, right? Decide what you're going to do. Commit with full intention. Drive it all the way to completion. Surround that with education that actually drives an understanding from your patient that results in a high level of compliance and full completion of the activity. Let's all do less better in the subjective, in the physical exam, in the exercise dosing, and let's see if that does not improve outcomes for our patients. Do less better has got my heart right now. And it wasn't just this. Maybe I'll do another one on teaching. You know, Jordan and I had some really good reflection this weekend in Santa Barbara of why the course felt like it went so well. We had just the right amount of time. The questions were so on point. I mean, it was a very high-performing group. The facility's beautiful. We had a lot in our favor. But part of it, too, was we did a little bit less, but we did it better. We did a little more refinement. We paused a little more. We had a little more time for the round robin. We did a touch less, but I think we both felt walking out, boy, that seemed to go a little better. So I think the carryover to doing less better is almost endless. But let me leave that here for you all today on Tuesday. We try to focus on kind of clinical stuff on Tuesday. So let's leave that right here, and then maybe we can do a leadership episode on a Thursday coming up. So those of you who are going to be in Traverse City, I'll see you Saturday morning. Those of you who are going to be in Milwaukee, I'll see you next Saturday morning. Hope everyone's doing great. I'm thrilled to be back in Colorado for a few days. Sorry, my voice is a little bit gone. The weekend was an exciting one. We got loud, we got passionate. That always tends to give me a little bit of a voice challenge for a couple of days. All right, take care, everybody. Thanks for being here.